there's no place like home for the holidays. And no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can.
Welcome back to Horror for the Holidays, a Christmas horror movie podcast. I'm Jay Logsdon.
And I'm Jeff Searcy.
So, Jeff, anything interesting happen?
Yes, some very interesting things happened. I had a man fall asleep on my porch who I invited in, and he now lives with me and controls my life, and also invited his girlfriend to stay with me.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
How's your wife taking it?
Not well.
Well, as your life descends into a slow, unceasing madness.
Oh no, that would be no different than normal for me.
That I hope has just a positive ending.
Oh, it's gonna, I mean, if it's anything like the movie we're discussing today, it will.
Yeah, I'm glad I can offer you a nice reprieve from that, and we'll talk about the movie we watched today. Let's set the scene. We'll deck the halls for 2022's The Leech.
Oof.
Filmed in 2021, so it was a pandemic movie.
Yes.
But I think I was watching some special features, and they said pretty much they all lived in the house that the movie was filmed in.
That helps.
And so, but yeah, it's like 4 people in the entire cast. But it's really good. They do a great job with what they had.
Luckily, there are 4 good actors.
Written and directed by Eric Pennycoff. No other Christmas credits to his name, but 2018 there was a release called Sadistic Intentions. That sounds kind of interesting, and a lot of the cast and crew from this movie were also in Sadistic Intentions.
I can't believe you're not going to mention M for mariachi.
I didn't see that on there.
I think that could be our Cinco de Mayo film for
Oh
next
man,
year.
yeah, we'll do a Cinco de Mayo episode.
I mean, we might as well. If it's anything close to as good as this one is, then I mean, we might as well check it out.
So if May 5th is Cinco de Mayo, and if May 6th is, and May 4th is May the 4th be with you, does that mean May 5th is Montezuma's Revenge of the 6th?
Yes, I believe that tracks.
Oh man! Both Graham Skipper, who plays David in this movie, and Jeremy Gardner, who plays Terry, are in another 2022 Christmas horror movie release, Christmas Bloody Christmas. Also, the sound editor Sean Duffy, Foley artist Razlan Shabaisty, and Foley.
This is why he gets paid the big bucks.
And then Foley, Andre Starkovsky are all involved with both as well. Mm-hmm. And then speaking of Christmas Bloody Christmas, there's a actual reference to the writer director of that, Joe Bigos. At one point in this movie, Taylor Zwodke, who plays Lexi, mentions her uncle Bigos like to eat ass. And
I mean, this important details like that you need to know.
And I when I first heard it, I went, oh, I bet that's a reference to Joe Bigos. And then actually in some of the extras I found, that was pretty much confirmed that that's what that was.
Yes.
But this movie, much like Christmas Bloody Christmas, if you follow us on TikTok, it was one of the movies I kind of highlighted for last year's slate of Christmas horror movies that I was most interested in. Mm-hmm. And I think even listening right now, you can probably tell that we had a fun time with this one. So
it's definitely an interesting watch.
But yeah, most of the cast and crew have worked with Eric Pennycoff before on his other projects. So it's kind of a, getting the gang back together, a real Ocean's 11.
Yeah. You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Currently available to stream on Arrow Films. You can order it on Arrow. I'm sure probably other streaming services as well.
Yeah.
But I know Arrow has like a streaming service available strictly for them. So if you want to watch it, I recommend you do. Check it out.
Indeed, sir.
Anything else I'm missing?
All I want to say is that Terry was amazing.
Filmed. Was it filmed in Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is also, I believe, where my comic books come from when I place my orders for comics. I was like,
Nice.
oh, I recognize that.
Some discounted comics from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yep. So yeah, we'll get into our synopsis for this episode. We start off, we get kind of a wintry scene. Outside, we see some snow falling on like the front steps of a church. It then cuts to the inside as David is preaching to his congregation. Very sparsely populated. I think there's maybe 5 people in the church total.
I mean, what can you really expect with the most generic sermon of all time? Do unto others as you would have done unto you.
He's talking about how like when you help people, you bring them face to face with God. You know, you don't know if the person you're helping is an angel or whatever, but when you help someone, you're shining the light of Christianity onto them or whatever.
Indeed.
And then we get like a quick moment of like heavy metal music playing and flashing lights as the title card, The Leech, plays. Yeah. All 4 people in the attendance are seen leaving the church. And then Rigo, who is the piano, the musician, the organist.
The organist slash DJ slash rapper.
Yeah, talks to David about how empty the offering tray is and how empty the church has been lately and the congregation's dwindling. And David's like, oh, don't worry, it's Christmas week. We always pack them in for our midnight mass on Christmas Eve.
Father, I think your sermons might suck.
David's kind of cleaning up and he finds this guy Terry sleeping in one of the church pews.
A disgusting bum. Ugh.
Something I've met Jeff's brother twice, and something about Terry gave me big Jeff's brother energy.
Yeah, he's definitely my brother before a haircut.
But there's like a great line where David's like, oh, I'm gonna have to lock up. And Terry's like, all right, just leave me the key and I'll get back to this dream I'm having and I'll lock up after I'm done.
That was one of the quotes I picked too. Yeah, it's classic Terry, as you'll find out.
David like, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
So Terry leaves and David locks up the church and he goes to leave and Terry's still in the parking lot, like trying to get his burner phone to work.
Totally raging out on this phone that you could probably tell hasn't worked in a long time.
And he's talking about how, he can't get a hold of his girlfriend to come pick him up, and she had dropped him off there.
Fucking phone is shit. Can't get a signal. Girlfriend won't pick me up.
And so David offers to give him a ride, and Terry's like, oh, it's only 20 minutes away. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's no big deal. It's, I could give you a ride. He's like, all right, yeah, it's just a quick 30-minute drive.
30 minutes will feel like no time. I mean, when you've driven 40 minutes, 50 minutes will feel like a breeze when we get to my house, which is an hour away.
It's a real To All a Good Night, where the killer kept getting further and further away.
No, he's probably half a galaxy away by now.
So we then cut to, it's winter time, so the sun sets quickly. Yes. But we now cut to like a dark street that's like lit by street lamps.
Classic Terry move. He goes up and bangs on the door of the house.
Yeah, he's like, oh, pull over here. He goes up and like bangs on the door. All of his shit's thrown out on the front yard. Clearly, Lexi's not home.
It's like clearly whoever this person is who we haven't met yet does not want anything to do with this guy.
Basically, David's like, Terry, get back in my car. Terry's saying, oh, I'm a troll. I'll go find a bridge to sleep under.
We can relate to that.
And certainly being the troll part. I don't know that I've ever slept under a bridge.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Have I revealed too much? Damn, the timeline's all screwed up now.
Yeah, so David's like, no, you can come stay at my place. I've got room for somebody. And I think, David's trying to live the sermon he just preached.
Admirable, I guess. I don't know if I would have practiced it with this person based on his interactions with Terry so far, but yes, he is trying to actually do what he says, which is pretty rare.
And there's a great moment where like when they're driving at one point, and Terry's like, oh, you know what it's like, what David, what do you do when you can't get your woman to when your woman is in a bad mood? You give her the old chimney sweep.
Yeah.
And then David's like, Terry, I'm celibate. And Terry's like, does that mean you have both parts?
That was an amazing line.
So
give her the old chimney sweep.
We know what kind of guy Terry is. They then get to David's house. And it turns out like there's a big shrine to David's mother in the living room. He turns on the light. Like David's busy talking about like, oh, this was my mother's place before she passed away. And he turns on a light. There's like a big shrine to like David's mother.
And Terry's like, oh God, who's this bulldog?
Terry, that's mother.
Woof.
And so then David is like types up a Facebook post, talking about, oh, I'll see you all.
I got a blog.
I'll see you all on Christmas Eve service. And he kind of scrolls through all of his previous Facebook posts, and the only person that's liked them is Rigo.
Yeah.
David goes to bed with his CPAP machine on.
Yeah. That'll come into play later.
And is promptly awoken by Terry's loud music coming from down below. And David kind of goes out and asks him to turn it down. No smoking in the house. Terry, I've got a big day tomorrow. I need to get some sleep.
Because, that's the first thing I do when somebody's nice enough to let me stay in their house is I break out incredibly loud music and start smoking in their room.
I start cranking the heavy metal and smoking cigarettes. The next morning at confession, a woman comes into the confessional booth and talks to David. She says that she's pregnant, thinking about getting an abortion because the father is a loser, and she's being evicted from her house. It really sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's almost like it's the woman that Terry was trying to get with last night.
David is then writing another Facebook post when he hears the doorbell ring to his house.
I swear to God, David, I told this woman not to ring the doorbell. Yep. That's the problem.
Terry's trying to smuggle his girlfriend Lexi into the house, and she says something. Like there's one line, and David kind of gives her a knowing smile.
It's like, oh, this is the woman I talked to earlier.
I think they mentioned that, like, oh, the city shut off her power, and that's kind of and David kind of like, oh yes, I think we're more acquainted than you thought. Some kind of attitude.
Stay a while and listen.
Later that night,
I swear to God, David, I told her not to ring the doorbell.
Terry wakes him up in the middle of the night to basically like apologize.
Like, Terry, this is not the problem. First of all, it's fine. Whatever. I would have helped this woman anyway. Second of all, oh yeah, and this is also when he screams when he sees David in the CPAP machine.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck is that?
This helps me breathe, Terry.
The next morning, Terry and Lexi make breakfast and ask David if they can stay through Christmas. It's only a couple days away.
And they volunteer to do chores, and they're like, "Oh, we can help out with errands."
Yeah, and Lexi says she's busy, looking for a job. And I think at this point, like David kind of says, "Sure, if I can kind of, help you guys get back on your feet." And introduce you to God, reintroduce God into your lives.
Oh yeah, you guys don't need to do chores or any of that. Just try to read your Bible and get closer to God.
And I think I misspoke earlier. I think this is the moment where David kind of implies that he already knows Lexi. He knows Lexi's the woman who visited him in confession.
He does both. He kind of looks like he suspects on the stairs because obviously he's thinking of Terry in the confession booth. And I think he does do more like he clearly knows now at the dining room table when they're all talking. And this also illustrates an important difference between Terry and Lexi. Lexi's like, oh, I'm going to go look for a job. And it's like Terry's like, oh, I'm going to hang out here at the house.
Yeah. Oh, we know we're going to see what Terry gets up to in the house while Lexi's gone here soon.
I mean, it's important business.
Rigo comes by to record a rap.
He's like, Father? Who the hell are these people?
Yeah. Questions if David's allowed to have a woman living in his house, and
it's my mom's house, not a parsonage.
Yep. And so and he's basically being like, oh, and remember, Rigo, even Jesus broke the Sabbath laws, like blah 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 blah. Viewing himself as more important and above these rules he set for himself, and trying to justify these decisions in his head.
Yeah. Always great at justifying decisions.
And so we get Rigo's little rap where it's like, put down the weed and pick up the sword, God. It's great.
Oh, that rap.
And then all of a sudden we get more heavy metal music playing in the background.
Like it's completely blasting, which we figure out why it's so loud this time. He's trying to mask the sound of something else.
Yeah, David goes and opens the door because he's banging on the door and
Oh,
Terry's
look,
not
it's Terry
answering.
furiously masturbating.
And he opens the door and Terry's cranking one out.
I'm cranking one out. How's it going, David? Want to come in here?
And David like closes the door, and then we get like the first of these weird like red lit.
Yes, it's like this. I think this is the first moment where David's mind cracks a little. It hasn't broken completely, but he's like, "What? What have I done?"
And so like Terry kind of comes out and he's talking to him, and the entire scene is like lit in red light, and so it's kind of a creepy thing. And he's like, and part of the things that Terry's saying is like, oh, and I think it's kind of Terry trying to get David to give in like temptation.
Yeah.
And things like that, because like Terry keeps offering him a drink, Terry keeps offering him a cigarette,
Weed, yeah.
And then at one point, like Terry basically says, Terry kind of comes out and implies that like, oh, he thinks David's into men, and and so David, and then at one point he's like, oh, like, what are you guys doing up there? And he's like, oh, we're recording music, Terry.
Yeah, he's definitely implying. Oh, and this will come into play later too when David reveals how he knows Rigo, and that's gonna get even more heated.
And so later that night after, oh, and the whole time I forgot to mention, like Terry's like, well, I got a great set of pipes on me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, the devil doesn't know my name.
Yeah. Oh, Terry.
So then later that night, Lexi has brought home food for dinner. And they kind of...
Look at all this stuff they gave me.
And they kind of talk about how... And David mentions kind of how their predicament, how Lexi and Terry's predicament is similar to Rigo's predicament when David first met him. He met him in a truck stop bathroom.
Yes. That makes Terry raise his eyebrow.
And so then later they're doing some Bible study, and Terry and Lexi finally convince David to start drinking.
Yes, just have a little taste.
With a bit of peer pressure, and they start playing Never Have I Ever. This is where we get the moment where Lexi's like, playing Never Have I Ever is where I learned that my uncle B Ghost eats ass.
Yeah. This is going to be, I think they do a few just, generic ones. And then I think it's Lexi that's like, never have I ever slept with a man. So obviously she doesn't raise her hand. No,
she does and Terry does.
Yeah.
And then we get like David kind of like finishing a drink. But it's kind of murky. Like, is David finishing the drink because he's starting to get drunk, and as you drink more, or is he finishing the drink because he's slept with a man?
Yeah. Curious.
We also get a mention at one point of the game that because I think at one point Lexi's like been in handcuffs.
Yeah, the police. Yeah, Terry mentions it earlier, and then they bring it up again during the game.
And then Terry's like, well, you know what? There's a game Lexi and I like to play that we call Cocks and Robbers.
Yeah. It's I think it's at the beginning when they're just starting to drink before they start playing the game. She's like, "What did you boys get up to today?" And Terry's just kind of looking at David like, "Oh, we got up to some stuff."
Yeah. Oh, we recorded some music.
Yeah.
We then kind of get like as David gets more and more drunk, he's a lightweight. He starts kind of fading in and out, and we get like snippets of conversations between Terry and Lexi, and David's kind of like interjecting over the top.
Yeah.
But you don't know. It's kind of one of those where like, is he actually saying these things, or is it in his mind that he's saying these things?
And then we get Lexi, never have I ever wanted to kiss a priest.
Yep, and stuff like that. And like talking about how handsome David is. And then at this point, like Terry mentions that David walked in on him cranking one out.
I was cranking one out up there, you know what I'm saying?
And then we get a scene where like really coolly shot where it's like upside down and David's like in his bedroom and he gets up and it's like as he like walks down the hall, the camera kind of rights itself and he opens the door to Terry and Lexi's room.
Lexi's in her cop outfit and Terry's handcuffed on the bed.
Yep, and they're playing Cocks and Robbers.
Yep.
And like Lexi walks up and takes Terry's hand and leads him into the room as like the door slams shut. Yeah, David's hand, yep. As the door slams shut. The next morning, David wakes up with a hangover.
Oh, he's open all right.
He goes to church
He's like stumbling around when he wakes up, and almost like he's had either way too much to drink, or maybe they gave him something else.
I think they gave him weed. I think
Yeah.
it's implied that they did give him weed. Because at one point, like Terry's like, oh, or David's like, oh, I haven't smoked cigarettes in years.
Yeah.
We used to smoke a pack a week back in seminary.
And Lexi's like, you got to tell him what's in it.
Yep.
You got to tell him what's in it.
It's not tobacco, David. David goes to church, and he's kind of praying for, giving into temptation and drinking the night before.
I think when he wakes up, he's hungover in the kitchen. It's either Terry or Lexi. I don't remember which one. But he's like, I don't remember going to bed last night.
Oh, and that's where Lexi mentions like, oh yeah, I tried to put your CPAP machine back on you and stuff like that.
Yeah, like obvious again, demonstrating she's the more responsible one.
And so as David is praying, he then starts to like hear voices and see shadows in the church like moving around. And at one point, like he sees the doors of the church like slam shut, and it like ruffles the pages of a Bible and blows out all these candles. Mm-hmm. And David's kind of looking around trying to figure out where these noises are coming from, and he runs into Rigo in the hallway. And Rigo, kind of like is still questioning, what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I think asks if they're still on for tonight. Like he's, because he can tell there's something wrong with David.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, are we still on for tonight to try and record? He's like, oh, how about we do it first thing tomorrow morning or something, or something like that. And so David comes home, finds Terry like snorting coke off the table.
I mean, classic Terry.
And
everything with this guy is just an escalation from one thing to the next.
This is when David decides to like introduce new ground rules for the house. Because, he's hungover. He doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So no more smoking, no more drinking, no more drugs, no more heavy metal music.
And he feels ashamed that he doesn't know exactly how many vows he's broken yet.
A cool touch to this whole scene is like Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies is playing like during this. I just thought it was kind of a neat little part. David starts like dumping all the booze and down the drain, and like forces Terry to dump his coke down the garbage disposal.
And it's at that point, right, when they're in the bathroom, they're dumping stuff. Is that when Terry mentions what happened the night before?
No, so they go to Terry's room to confiscate the heavy metal tapes.
Stuff, yeah.
And then he's like, oh, David, I forgot to give you this. And he gives him his collar.
Oh, yeah.
And
how did you get this?
And he's like, oh, well, you came in last night when we got a little Sodom and Gomorrah. More Sodom, if you know what I mean.
And he's like, and Terry's like, what? And no, David's like, what? And Terry's like, we was sucking and fucking.
Yeah. And like David runs off and like starts puking in the toilet.
Yeah.
Terry's like, oh, it'll just stay between us, David. But it kind of sounds like Terry's planning on blackmailing him.
Definitely. Well, yeah, because he also brings up the Rigo thing again.
Mm. And so like there's just kind of this like little implication, this little thing where he's like, oh no, don't worry about breaking your rules, David. This will just stay between us.
And it's like, were they really interested in doing this with David, or was this just to get something to hold over him so they don't get thrown out of the house?
And then, did it happen at all, or are they making it up? Like,
true.
David, because he was very drunk.
Yeah.
David then has this vision. He's like he's like typing another Facebook post, and it's getting more. His Facebook posts are getting like more fire and brimstone-y as like the days go by. Which once again, Rigo's the only person that likes these posts.
Yeah.
David then has a vision of himself like in the act of like cutting off. Like with an axe, like cutting off Lexi and Terry's heads. Like he looks outside and sees this and is like horrified. And then and he sees himself look up and smile at him.
Yeah.
And then we get like an axe swing, and it's just wood that he's chopping out back.
Yeah.
Lexi comes home and kind of says, oh,
she's got her job.
Yep. She's got a job figured out. And, and stuff like that. She's kind of getting her life back together, getting back on her feet.
Terry's like, oh, we got to celebrate.
And David is like, no, we have to follow these rules. And he comes and he's like, get all your toys. Because now, David's real mad.
Yeah.
And so he burns all of their sex toys
in the backyard. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
And the whole time, Lexi's pissed and Terry's having fun with it for whatever reason.
Oh, I think he's just enjoying David's descent into madness.
They do another Bible study scene. And David fights with Lexi. There's like a moment where he's like, basically like, because Lexi's pushing back against all this indoctrination and stuff like that, how much money he cost them by destroying all their stuff.
Yeah.
So they start fighting.
And this is the point where Terry is a little bit out of character for the rest of the stuff he's done in the movie. Tries to like de-escalate the fight.
Mm-hmm. And so David kind of goes upstairs. He hears them continue to fight, and then there's a loud crash. It turns out Lexi knocked over Mother's urn.
Oh God!
And
this is the final straw on the sanity meter.
And David just gets really upset, and he goes and he starts to like sweep it up, and like,
don't touch her.
Terry's like, here, dump Mama in this jar, David.
Yeah.
And then he's like, David, I got a vacuum cleaner to suck Mama up.
Oh, this movie.
The next morning is Christmas Eve, and like the whole house is now decorated for Christmas. Terry's wearing a Santa hat.
Lexi is looking very pissed off.
Yep. Also wearing like an elf hat. Yeah. Lexi looks pissed off. But yeah, they've kind of decorated the whole house there. Oh, David, as an apology, we went and found all this stuff up in the attic.
I want to make it Christmassy for you.
And Rigo is there, and
he's like,
once again kind of questions the whole.
He's like, "Are you all right?"
Yep.
And then David flips out on him for something. I can't remember what exactly. And then Rigo's like, "Yeah, but no one comes to the church anymore."
Yep. Yeah. Nobody's been at the church for weeks, and basically like implies like, David, you're not preaching to anybody. Like even reinforced by the fact that like, I'm the only one that likes your Facebook posts.
Yes, it's like, so how crazy is David? That's the question we're asking ourselves.
And then David like is so upset that he kicks Rigo out of the congregation. He's like, you know what? Don't come back.
We don't need you. And it's also a little bit of his superiority complex coming through too. It's like, I saved you. Mm-hmm. Where would you be without me?
Yep. Where were you when I found you? Which, once again, the question is, why was David
in a truck stop bathroom, David?
Which, I mean, there's any number of reasons to be in a truck stop bathroom, but the heavy implication is that there's one reason.
There seems to be some implications. And honestly, this reinforces the whole Terry is a demon theory, because it seems like he found that weak point way too easily and just presses him on that over and over and over again.
We then get David back in the confessional booth. And he's drinking while he's in there, and we hear like the door close, and we get like Lexi's voice talking to him, and Lexi's voice then mutates into Terry's voice, which then becomes like more demonic.
Yes.
And we
get the lights go down, the saturation changes in the shot.
And like the voice says something like, I was there at the beginning and I will be there at the end. I am the Leech. And the movie does the thing.
It did the thing.
It does the thing.
They said the thing.
David then walks back to his house, and we get like a scene where it's kind of like Dutch tilt, and as he's like walking up to the house, and the
crazy angle.
The house is all lit for Christmas. Lexi admits that she is pregnant, and for whatever reason, there's a chance, even though they potentially just fucked 2 days ago, there's a chance that it's David. She wouldn't know she's pregnant, and it couldn't be David.
I don't think it could be David since she was pregnant already. But, they got to throw that out there to make David even more pissed off.
Yep. David says that he knows that Lexi was the girl that was at the church all those days ago, and Lexi basically is adamant that it wasn't her. She's not.
I never met you before I came to stay here.
I haven't stepped foot in a church in years.
Mm-hmm. Terry's like, and that's why I'm Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Little Family Guy callback, but they did the thing there.
David then kind of yells that he just wants them to get the fuck out of his house. This is his house. He doesn't want them there anymore. And Terry starts kind of beating the shit out of him right there.
He's like, throw us out, will you?
And then at one point, like, Lexi's trying to break them up, and he reels back to punch David again, and he
smacks her in the
face, breaks her nose. Lexi like starts bleeding everywhere. And she basically like yells as she's like running up the stairs, she's leaving, and first thing in the morning she's gonna get an abortion. Mm-hmm. David goes to call the cops, and then like Terry's sitting in the room with him, and basically like blackmails him, telling him, I could just call your little congregation and get you kicked out,
so you really want to do that?
And he's like, or I could call the local newspaper. They love a story of a good man gone bad.
Mm-hmm. Tell them how you found Rigo.
Yep. And how old was Rigo when you found him in that truck stop bathroom?
Oof.
We then get this great, I think one of the coolest images of the whole movie. David's face is all wrapped in bandages because he's all bloody from Terry beating the shit out of him, but he's wearing his like priestly vestments, and he's preaching in the dark of the church about basically like how hell on earth is coming.
Yes, this is his big midnight mass, by the way.
And nobody is there. And he like looks out into the dark, completely empty congregation. He hears all these ghostly whispers. And then with like red underlighting, Terry appears in one of the pews and like basically like confronts him. And it's clearly not Terry.
Yeah.
Like it's a hallucination or something. But he they kind of have like a moment. And it basically kind of leads David, once again, it's showing David's further descent into madness.
I was gonna say, don't the voices start saying like "kill Terry" or whatever, something like that?
Oh, they might. I might have missed that. David arrives back at his house, and it's like full of demonic laughter as Terry is wrapped in Christmas lights and snorting mother's ashes.
Yeah. And I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say David has lost his mind.
And like, he's like, I snorted mama, David. And then he's like, reaches into his pants and starts beating off.
Yeah.
We then see like he goes up to like talk to Lexi, and Lexi's already like in her third trimester, like
yes, ridiculously pregnant.
And David questions it. He's like, "That's not possible." And Lexi like looks at him and she's like, "It's just what you wanted, David. It's a Christmas miracle."
Yep.
David then goes into his room to pray. And we get this great scene where, like, as he's praying for forgiveness, as he's praying for guidance, as he's praying for answers, like, the lights in the room are flashing on and off, and, like, it's cutting to black.
Yeah.
And then, like, when he, like, basically, like, when he kind of gets, like, give me your guidance, God, the lights go off, and when they come back up, the cross on his wall was 2 shotguns.
The gun.
And
you must kill.
And he like a Bible then comes like sliding across the floor, and David picks up the Bible and there's 2 shotgun shells inside of it with like the word kill like scrawled in blood across the cover.
Like you normally see.
And David says like, "Thy will be done." And like as soon as he says that, there's like a pounding on the door, and he sees Terry bursting in through the door.
Yep.
And David's over to like overpower him, and he starts beating him. And then in between like the flashes of punching Terry on the floor, we see that it's actually Rigo.
Yeah.
David's sitting there like horrified that he just killed Rigo. Like his hands covered in blood, and Terry and Lexi like appear in the doorway behind him.
It's Terry first, and he's like, "Well, we're gonna burn this motherfucker."
Yep. And then Lexi like walks by, and she's like, "Someplace to raise a child."
Yeah.
And so David goes outside to where he was chopping wood earlier, and he like drags Rigo's body with him, and he like takes his axe and he lifts it up above his head, and he like sees that Rigo's not dead, that Rigo's moving, and David just brings the axe down anyway and kills Rigo.
It's too late. He snapped.
David then grinds up some pills and puts them in tea and gives it to Lexi and Terry, and basically tells them he's got they tell him that they want to name the baby David.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, isn't that nice? Merry Christmas. I've got a gift that I want to give each of you in the morning."
Yeah. Oh, the when he gives them the tea, he's like, "It's an old family recipe."
Boy, this is the second movie in a row where the old family recipe is putting drugs in someone's drink.
Honestly, I think if somebody says something is an old family recipe, I'm going to start passing.
David is now sitting in a rocking chair, bathed in the red Christmas lights, holding the shotgun. The clock strikes midnight, and Away in the Manger starts playing as David loads his shotgun.
David's like, "I'm not insane. You're insane."
He goes into Lexi and Terry's room, and he envisions Lexi's like pregnant belly talking to him.
Yes.
Basically telling him like, to exchange its life for his, and that, it wants to be set free. David says he will do that. He then fires one shot, and we cut to the outside of the house.
Yes.
And Lexi starts screaming, and we hear another gunshot.
Yes.
And then it's all quiet as what was it? Away in a Manger.
Yeah.
As Away in the Manger continues to play, the front door opens, and like covered in blood, out walks Lexi.
Yes.
And she like walks out of the house and walks down the sidewalk.
But it doesn't look like it's her blood.
Yep.
So what we theorized was David killed Terry and then killed himself. Because, I mean, ultimately, that might have been the best thing he could do for that child was save him from Terry.
And then another one of our favorite little tropes. We've got this really great dramatic moment, and then a really poppy song called "Christmas Is in the Air" starts
Oh,
playing.
God, yes.
As the final credits roll.
It's almost as good as "I want to spend Christmas by myself."
So that was the Leech. It's something else.
It's an experience, let me tell you.
And because it was something else, it's time to bring back our occasional segment, Snow You Didn't.
Snow, you didn't bring that back.
Jeff, what the fuck did we just watch?
That's a question I often ask myself, but this one was even more mind-bending than usual. I mean, there are so many different interpretations of this movie, which I think it just shows you how great it is. It's like you could take any number of things away from this movie and not be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Even in the some of these extra bonus features I watched on the DVD, at one point, like I don't think it was Eric. I think it was one of the actors. Basically says, "There's no good guy in this movie. There's no bad guy in this movie. Like
It's just people.
They're all likable." And they're all incredibly dislikable, and like things happen where like it makes you hate the person, and then the next scene you're like back on their side.
I think it's one of the things that makes it feel so real while you're watching it and you get sucked into it. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is just how it is in your day-to-day life. It's like sometimes people piss you off, sometimes you can see where they're coming from. And it's like, and some people, like the Terrys of the world, piss you off more than you generally are on their side. But you get those moments every once in a while, like when Terry is trying to de-escalate the fight, where it's like, yeah, I can see where Terry's coming from on this one.
So, like, a couple of thoughts I had, things that I don't know, I've not fully fleshed out in my head, just kind of things I've been rattling around with, like we kind of mentioned, is Terry a demon?
Well, it's like we got so many different theories. It's like, is Terry a demon? Is Terry just an asshole and David is insane from the beginning and this just pushes him over the edge?
Like he's watching his congregation deteriorate before his eyes,
Yes, he's losing everything. He's lost his mother. He's lost his flock, I mean, and if it continues down that road, eventually he'll lose his job when they close his parish.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so there's those kind of questions, there's the... what was and wasn't a hallucination. There was part of me like watching it. I was like, did David kill Terry and Lexi when he viewed them outside where he thought he saw himself chopping their heads off?
How much of it happened? How much of it is real? I mean, it's like, the Terry is a demon theory. It's like, is he honing in on something that David feels guilty about with the Rigo thing? It's like, did he abuse Rigo as a boy or something?
Mm-hmm. No, there's all sorts of like interesting interpretations and stuff like that.
And it's like, is Terry even this way, or is this just the way that David is seeing him?
Mm-hmm.
Because we see flashes of Terry acting like somewhat of a regular person. Are those moments of clarity for David where he's seeing what Terry's actually like, and the crazy demon Terry is just what David is imagining him to be? Because it's like, on the one hand, Lexi acts like Terry is an asshole or whatever, but she doesn't act like Terry is like a sadist like he is in David's eyes.
Right.
Or it's like, why would she stay?
No, it's wild. It truly something people need to watch for themselves. It's so cool.
There's so many different interpretations, and even try to interpret the movie from each of the three main characters' points of view, and you can get wildly different stories. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I think that's common in real life, too. It's like everything's based on your point of view.
Yep. Yeah, everything, yeah. It depends on how you view something kind of in your own mind. Are you the good guy or are you the bad guy? From that, where do you want to go minutia-wise?
Well, why don't we talk about the sets and costumes?
All right. Christmas sweater, favorite costumes, set design, things like that.
It's the order we usually go in.
I thought that I mentioned it earlier, I thought that scene with David wrapped in all the bandages all over his face.
Yes.
It is like priestly vestments,
that was
preaching
really cool.
in like a completely dark church. I thought that was the coolest scene of the entire movie.
That was a great image. I liked Terry's various costumes throughout the movie. Like his hobo outfit at the beginning, which is like, you wonder, obviously he has not been homeless for long because he was staying with Lexi. Mm-hmm. So it's like, did he dress up this way on purpose to get sympathy, and that's why he's at the church to begin with?
Right.
And I thought the kind of weird cutaway scenes where, David sees, like, is he seeing flashes of his future or whatever. I thought those were really well shot. And the way they set the sets up where the lighting and stuff changes so dramatically. And it's like jarring and off-putting, I thought worked really well for someone's like descent into madness.
No, there's like a scene where like Terry's got like a big cozy Christmas sweater on, and he's wearing like a Santa hat, but he's got like Christmas lights wrapped around him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the scene where I snorted Mama, David.
Yes.
And like it's just such a neat, like monstrous, like sadistic looking scene.
Oh, also, whoever designed that horrible painting of David's mother, A+ job on that.
In one of the bonus features I watched, we saw like Eric's house, and he's got the Mama painting like up in his house, and I think that's awesome.
I mean, I wish I could have a copy.
Speaking of the house, I thought the house was really cool, like
Yes.
a really neat set. They do some great stuff with that.
They definitely do a lot with what they had to work with.
And like, I don't know how they got access to that church, but like they did a great job of like making that church look empty.
Yes, I was gonna mention that. It does seem like a dying church.
Mm-hmm. And then I like I said, the thing about like and just David with the bandages around his face in
Yes.
general, such a neat kind of like monstrous look. Like he you can still see his nose and stuff like that, but like he's got like bandages like all over his face.
Well, I kind of thought of it as like a double metaphor, because he's like, on the one hand, he's trying to cover up like how insane he's becoming by covering up his wounds from the fight. But it's like, on the other hand, or is it just unwrapping the real crazy David?
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to come out from underneath.
Anything else for Christmas sweater?
The only other thing I can think of is, this is not in the movie, but they set up for Rigo's music video. I thought that was really well done. It definitely looked like a cheap, music video I've seen 1,000 times on YouTube.
I saw a thing, one of the bonus things, Eric and the actor who plays David and the actor who plays Rigo were like, oh no, that was our favorite thing to shoot.
Oh, I could see why.
Eric was like, oh no, I want to bring rap music back into horror movies.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. Like,
Yeah, I love the video. It was perfect. I was glad they included it.
but yeah, I mean, they do need to bring rap music back to horror movies. I love the Nightmare on My Street and stuff like that.
No, don't get me wrong. This was no crazy B-roll movie from Santa Claus. This was a secret softcore porn
Right.
to shoot the movie with. But it's a nice little music video.
And arguably, it was better than that. Do you want to move on to Christmas Carol's favorite quotes?
That sounds good to me.
All right. A couple that we mentioned earlier on. Give her the old-fashioned chimney sweep.
Yeah, give her the old chimney sweep. Give her the old in out. You know what I'm saying?
And then the David, I'm celibate. Terry, oh, so you got both parts?
That was so great. And the one we mentioned earlier, where he was like, oh, I have to lock up the church. You need to go. He's like, oh, just give me the keys. I'll hang out here for a while, lock up for you when I get ready to leave.
Let me get back to this wicked dream I was having.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
The I'm going to find a bridge to sleep under like a goddamn troll.
Yes, I picked that one. Also, I snorted mama. Obviously, I had to do that one.
I also have I snorted mama. And then the one that we also mentioned, that's how I found out that my Uncle B Ghost eats ass.
Yeah, I had that one too. Oh my God. There's just so many great lines in this movie.
No, there's a lot of great lines that Terry has. Like I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's one where he's like reading the Bible and he's like, "Oh man, this is wicked." They talk about women getting like cut open and stuff like that.
Just one of the ones I noted was just it's not even that funny of a line. It's just how casually he drops it in. And he's like, "Oh, how did you get my collar or whatever?" It's like, "Oh, it was probably when you were in here last night. We were sucking and fucking."
Yeah.
He's so casually.
Christmas spirit. How Christmassy is the movie? How Christmassy are the 3 kills?
It's a pretty Christmassy movie, honestly. I would say overall, I would put it like medium ranked on the Christmas meter.
I think it became more Christmassy as it goes on, but it also kind of culminating in in their house kind of being fully decorated for Christmas, but it's also because the movie takes place in the week leading up to Christmas.
Yeah. So obviously it can't be too Christmassy right away, but I think they did. I'll say it has an appropriate level of Christmasness.
There's a lot of Christmas music. That the handful of of songs that we get are Christmas songs.
Yeah, and we got a little. This one's a little more on the religious side versus what we normally get for like the pop Christmas music.
And then we get snow's on the ground, which is always Christmassy.
I mean, we got snow, we've got decorations, we got talk about presents.
And certainly like David after Terry decorates David's house. And everything's kind of covered in Christmas lights. That looks real Christmassy.
I mean, and even
though it looks very sinister.
The plot too, because the driving force behind this is we're getting ready for midnight mass or whatever, the big Christmas Eve mass, and that's central to the plot. So it was nice that it actually felt like it was appropriate for this to be set at Christmas time.
Well, and even if you're looking at the plot, David is welcoming a mother and father with an unborn baby into his home right before Christmas.
Yes, some potent symbolism.
Yep, like very leading into that.
Just capturing the spirit of the season. You're supposed to be charitable and helpful around Christmas time.
But one thing that I really loved is I loved like David wakes up. His house is decorated for Christmas, and even though it's decorated for Christmas, it's so incredibly sinister. Mm-hmm. Like all the Christmas decorations just make his house creepier.
The lighting in this movie is amazing. Mm-hmm. It's just it conveys so much without having to do hardly anything at all.
And like that scene of like David in the rocking chair with like the Christmas lights on in the background. It's an aluminum tree with red Christmas lights just reflecting red light onto him, holding a shotgun. The clock strikes midnight. And Way in a Manger starts playing. Like that is such a great scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, hats off to the people who made this, especially with the limited resources they had to work with during the pandemic.
Yeah, I would say for the kills themselves, I mean, 1 happens on Christmas Eve and 2 happen on Christmas Day.
Well, I mean, using your scale of kills with an axe, adding a Christmas factor, I'd say they were mildly Christmassy.
Yep, there's at least 1 axe kill, so we got that. But in all actuality, they aren't really that Christmassy.
I mean, no.
But like also killing isn't necessarily the driving horror behind this movie.
True. Yes, insanity is definitely the central theme. Well, a big lesson of the movie that, I mean, you can honestly forget about because of all the crazy stuff that happens is this all started because this guy offered these 2 people who are homeless a place to stay. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how far do you push someone's charity before they go over the edge?
Right. It's the, my mom used to say, guests and fish start to stink after 3 days. Yeah. Like, it's kind of the thing where like he gave them a place to stay. And already, like, he's thinking, like, oh, you'll stay here for a night, and then they want to stay the rest of the week.
Christmas, and then, it just devolves from there. I think at one point, Rigo even says the classic, give them an inch and they'll take a mile farther. Because, like, obviously, he knows the way that the people like this operate, just based on how he had his upbringing.
Yep, or how it's implied
that he grew up,
Anything else for Christmas spirit, or do you want to move on?
No, I just say overall, I would put this on a medium to high Christmas level.
As the movie goes on,
increases as it gets closer to Christmas, it gets appropriately more Christmassy.
It's like one of those little. It's like a graph that goes up. Like...
And I appreciate that the themes of the movie and part of the plot are based around Christmas time, so it's not just like artificially plopped onto the Christmas timeline.
Right. Oh, we need a reason for.
It's like we need to make a low budget horror movie, and so we need an excuse to make the costumes and sets look like Christmas.
Oh, we got all this we got these discount Christmas set decorations. We'll just set our movie at Christmas.
It's nice to see one that does not feel like that.
No, it does really feel like Christmas is like integral to the whole plot.
Yep.
Moving on to Broken Bulb, Brilliant Bulb. One thing you would fix in the movie, and then one thing you would like to praise.
Well, one thing that I would fix, and I never usually say this for these movies, is I think I would add about 15 to 20 minutes to the runtime and to show more of Terry and Lexi's behavior that drives David to such a dramatic shift in his like worldview. Or to just reveal, it's like how we get more moments maybe of David snapping before his big break, so you can kind of see that building up from underneath, and it's like, is that just the real David coming out, or are they driving him to this?
Right. No, I think that's a great one. I kind of, in a weird way, I kind of had the opposite, and it's kind of a stupid complaint. It's kind of a little cop out, but I just put down like the movie moves so fast. I want to say it's about a 90-minute runtime.
Yeah.
And the movie just breezes by. It's such a quick watch. And because it's such a quick watch, I kept having to pause the movie so I could catch up while I was writing my notes.
True. I mean, I honestly think the pace is fine. I don't want to sound like this is like a huge problem or anything. I just would have enjoyed seeing these characters more because all these actors were so good.
No, I would like to spend more time in the universe of this movie.
Definitely.
For Brilliant Bulb, one thing you would like to praise?
Just what I just mentioned, basically. The chemistry between the main three actors in this is insane. Brigo is good too, but you don't see him nearly as often. Mm-hmm. But the way that Terry, Lexi, and David play off each other, and you almost get this feeling of like claustrophobia as you get more into the movie, where it's like, can I ever not be around these people? It's like, I need some time away. And even when David tries to get some time away from Terry finds a way to drag him back into his bullshit.
Right. I had, we've praised this movie a lot. I think it's going to come across, how much we both liked this movie. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I feel like maybe we didn't praise enough is the script, the dialogue. Yes. Like how well written this movie is, how well written the dialogue is. It really to me, it really felt like this is the way people actually talk to each other.
And that really powers the character interaction. And it really helps you feel this is honestly, you could say that this was like almost like a true crime documentary. That's how it feels. Like you're seeing something that actually happened because the people act so naturally and the story is paced so well that you can just see the progression go from like, we invited this guy into my house to I need to kill both these people.
I think I read one of the DVD extras. Eric said like the way he kind of came up with the idea for the movie in the first place was he was like looking into like squatters' rights.
Oh yeah.
And like that's kind of where the movie then blossomed from. And so I thought that was real. Like that kind of how the movie evolved.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So let's get into our final rating. We rate these every episode. We rate our movie based off of one of three categories. Is it ho 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 hilarious? Is it seasonally scary? Or is it you'll be sorry? Jeff?
It's going to be seasonally scary for me. I mean, it's a genuinely unsettling movie, and just the amount of crazy things it throws at you it starts off fairly tame. I mean, even though it's a big jump to, somebody you just met or whatever, to invite them to stay with you. But the way that it ratchets up the tension constantly too between David, Terry, and Lexi, more so between David and Terry because they seem like the primary antagonists to each other. But it just ramps up the tension so well. And the lighting I mentioned earlier, like, makes everything, especially when David is having like his little breaks before his big, total disaster. It just makes you feel so uncomfortable. I think that's one of the horror aspects that gets me more than the outright like scary things like jump scares and demons and all that kind of stuff, is just the general feeling of being unsettled while you're watching something and never knowing what's going to happen next, and just generally being disturbed by the subject matter and the twists and turns that something takes. And the realness also made it feel more scary because it's like you could see something like this happening. This is not like beyond the realm of possibility. Like I said, you could imagine seeing this on a true crime documentary or reading about this in the newspaper.
Off the air, you and I were talking, and like we mentioned, like everyone kind of knows a Terry, like
definitely.
in some respect, and yeah, that's kind of what you're saying is like it's very real. The Terryness is very real.
You can imagine something like this happening. It's not hard. It's not a stretch, and I think that's what makes it so unsettling.
So it's come across as we've done this show. That you and I are friends and stuff like that, and I've sat here and the whole time I was like, oh, I know how Jeff's gonna rate this movie. I know Jeff is gonna put this down as ho 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 hilarious. I'm like, I know Jeff. If I know Jeff, he'll put this down as ho 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 hilarious. I am genuinely shocked that you went with seasonally scary.
I mean, it is honestly, it is ho 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 hilarious. It's got so many great moments and lines in it that make it a hilarious movie, but it's just so good that I could not rate it at ho 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 hilarious. It has to be seasonally scary, and it does have some genuinely unsettling moments, which not a lot of these movies do.
No, I feel like I had to give it seasonally scary myself. That's two seasonally scaries for this one. The movie is really funny. It could be ho 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 hilarious. But it's so psychological and it's so atmospheric, and it's not jump scares. It's not, killer in the house, all those little things. And it's not gore. There's not, it's not the things that genuinely make people like turn away. It's just how uncomfortable the movie made me and how bizarre it was.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
just made it genuinely it's up there with, like, what I've said to you about The Strangers, a movie that I can't get past like the first 15 minutes of because it makes me so uncomfortable. This movie, like, just made me uncomfortable, but not in the same way. Like, it wasn't as upfront as like The Strangers is about it, but it was just like, as the movie went on, it's like a car wreck. Like, you're just like, you're gonna see something gross. Like, what you're gonna see is probably gonna be haunting, but you just can't look away. It's so bizarre, so strange.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's a testament to how good the movie is and how much care they put into making it that, honestly, you begin to wonder as you watch the movie, it's like, am I going crazy? It's like, how much of this movie is really happening to me?
No, and like, after, and we've said a couple times before, like, oh, I couldn't get that movie out of my head after we watched it. We've joked about how we still think about Once Upon a Time at Christmas all the time, or how after we watched Letters to Satan Claus, like how much fun we had. But like this one, like, I would just be walking around and like coming up with like, okay, but was Terry real in this part, or was he fake? Like, and I was just like, the whole time I'm like trying to connect all these puzzle pieces and like put together like the movie, and it would be like, okay, I've got the puzzle made out, I know what the movie is. And then I would think about it some more, and like I would rearrange the stuff, and all the pieces still fit, but I have a different view of the movie after I watched it.
No, I was definitely doing the same thing. I'd find myself thinking, it's like, so if Lexi said that, could David have really done that? Or, it's like, if Terry was really this insane, then why was Lexi acting like everything was fine?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so how much of this is being warped by David's perception?
No, it's such a cool movie. Truly a movie that needs to be watched. Like, I think this is a top tier.
This is a definite
Christmas
recommend.
horror movie.
Yes, it's got to be. It's easily, I would say, in the top 3 movies we've watched so far.
No, this is one that I wish we had gotten to see in theaters. Like, I don't know that it got a theatrical release at all. I would have loved to have seen this in a theater. Like,
that would have been nice. Yeah.
Every episode we take our villains, depending, and put them on a naughty list, ranking them from most naughty to least naughty. What do you want to do with the naughty list for this?
I mean, honestly, that was one of the things I was trying to figure out when I was rewatching this and doing some of my notes was, I mean, there really are no villains. There are no heroes. It's like, it's varying degrees of terribleness. I mean, if anybody was going to be the hero, it would probably be Rigo. Because, he just shows up and he's like, Father, this is a really bad idea.
Yeah, this is real fucked up, dude.
Are you sure you're okay, Father? And just keeps asking him until, eventually he gets murdered through no fault of his own. Just coming to try and check on him. And, but honestly, if I would say, if you had to pick a bad guy for the naughty list, it would have to be David. Because, I mean, he at least murders Terry. And, he at least murders himself. Probably Terry. And definitely Rigo. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, I would have to pick him, even though it's like, would he have ever got to that place without Lexi and Terry doing this to him? Or was this just like barely bubbling, being contained underneath the surface, and this just snapped him?
No, going into my rewatch, I was convinced. I'm like, we're going to have Terry be our villain. We're going to have Terry be the bad guy. This is what it's going to be. And at the end of the movie, my second time through, I wrote down David ?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, it's like, I have to settle on David. Because ultimately, David makes all the choices that lead to this.
Mm-hmm. No, David has blood on his hands, literally. Like, I think, I think because he's so unhinged, like, certainly we put him above. In a weird way, like, it's similar to barricade.
Yes, it is. Although this is an example of how to do a barricade-like concept well versus what they did in Barricade.
No, this is true. This is a good version of barricade.
Finally found it.
And so yeah, I think David is probably, he's worse than Terrence Shade in Barricade.
Yes.
He's probably worse than Wayne in Santa Claus.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's worse than Brooklyn Santa, I would say. Because at least Brooklyn Santa has a reason for why he's killing, even if it's a bad reason.
Like maybe around Billy from Black Christmas.
Yeah, I would say that feels appropriate. Somewhere in that mid-tier.
Yeah. I think maybe we put him just below there. Like, there's a little bit of maybe like possible redeeming qualities for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't start off as a terrible person, so you have to give him that. And he seems to genuinely be trying to practice what he preaches.
Mm-hmm. Which, so many priests don't.
Which, speaking to that, at the beginning of this movie, Jay was like, "Oh, it's nice to see a good priest." And I was like, "Good priest? You're going to have to convince me of that." And then we saw the movie.
Yeah, then we watched the rest of the movie. Well, it's time to do everyone's favorite segment. We reach into our email inbox. We reach into our sweaty postage bag.
Oh boy.
And clean out the emails from we've received in a segment we like to call
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
All right, and this email comes to us today from Samantha, and it says, "Hi, thought I'd try one more time to connect since I see such a great opportunity to work together. Do you have some time to chat soon? I'd love to learn more about your show, and if Jun Group might be able to help. Does any time on my calendar line up with your schedule to chat? Thanks, Samantha."
Ah.
All right, we've got 3 other missed emails here about podcast amplification with Jun Group.
Jun Group, huh?
And I've not responded to any of them.
Well, let me do a little research into this Jun Group. Don't dismiss this so hastily now.
The thing I will say is she wants to connect with us about a great opportunity and wants to learn more about our show, as if she doesn't know what our show's actually about.
It is a real advertising company founded in 2005.
Huh.
Based in New York with offices in Chicago and Los Angeles. Is this one of those Chinese things I'm always hearing about that funnels money into shows?
That might be.
If so, I mean, maybe we should reply.
I was going to say, I'm still waiting for the Koch brothers to get back to us.
I know, right?
Start funneling dark money into our podcast.
One of them is definitely never getting back to us at this point.
But no, we actually don't really have any emails with questions. So instead, I'm going to make Jeff drink.
Oh, no. You see, this audience is terrible. Why do you people do this to me?
Red Bull Summer Edition Juneberry.
Oh.
I learned in looking up what a Juneberry is that it is from the same phylum as sugar plums. So it kind of stays on brand for Christmassy.
It's very Christmassy. Here we go. Yeah, not bad.
I think it's pretty tasty.
It's no terrible IPA like we had last time.
It comes in a blue can, like a light blue can, different than Red Bull Blue Edition, which is blueberry. But yeah, I looked up that a Juneberry is in the same phylum as sugar plums, so try to keep it on brand as Christmassy as possible.
Not bad, honestly.
A couple years ago, I know that the summer edition watermelon replaced whatever their red used to be, like cranberry, and now like Red Bull Red is watermelon. I think this is so good that probably it could replace Red Bull Blue and kick blueberry out, because the blueberry sucks.
Oh, well, good. Always better to improve your product.
No, I like this a lot. I think it's real tasty.
Yeah.
I try not to drink as many energy drinks as we did when Jeff and I worked overnights all the time. But I might buy a couple more of these. It's actually real tasty. I like this quite a bit. If you see it in stores, check it. And you're not predisposed to caffeine, check it out. I think it's really good.
Yep, I would recommend.
But yeah, that's our garbage day segment for this week. If you want to send us an email and try to right the wrongs of Samantha at Jun Group,
Yes.
send us an email at horrorfortheholidays@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter, like Eric Pennycoff, the director of The Leech, does. He follows us on Twitter.
Yes, we're very proud of that fact.
And you can also follow us on Instagram, the Q app, Queue. I'm trying to get an invite to Blue Sky before, but we haven't gotten one yet. And we are on all those places at TikTok as well. We are at horror4 holidays.
Yes, if you want to catch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/horror for the holidays. That's where I upload the audio backups for the show. And go ahead and subscribe over there. It's an easier place to leave us feedback to. The YouTube comment pop-ups are handy. We can read them quickly.
Yep. Give us a like over there. Set the little reminder bell.
Go on Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars, tell us we're fat and dumb.
Yep. Tell us that we're sacrilegious morons for liking this movie. 5 stars.
Leech, worst movie ever. Jeff and Jay fat.
Yep. Leave it 5 stars. Leave us that review. And if you want surprise kind of early views of what movie we're going to be watching next week, you can follow us on the Q app, Queue, for same name at Horror4 Holidays. And you can see what movie we're watching next. So if you went out, you would have seen we were watching The Leech already. Follow us there. And we write kind of mini reviews of the movies we've seen after the episodes go live. And it has just a fun little function where you spin a wheel and it tells you what movie to watch next. So that's how we decide our movies most of the time now.
If any Chinese moneyed interests or fracking billionaires or Ben Shapiro over at the Daily Wire is interested in funding our podcast, we would also be interested in that opportunity.
I will hardcore pivot from being kind of an independent, politically independent, politically neutral horror movie podcast to hardcore TP USA bullshit. If some billionaires want to file,
somebody wants to throw a few million.
If someone wants to funnel some money, but until that happens, we'll just
never let
keep
it
doing
be
what
said
we're
that
doing.
the Horror for the Holidays is not for sale for the right price.
Yeah, we can be bought. We're not like other podcasts. We're not like the Doughboys who can't be bought. We can be bought.
We can be bought. We don't have any integrity at all. Actually,
Yeah, I'd sell my soul for a couple $1 million.
We're a couple of Terrys, if we're being honest.
True, we are the most. Terry is the character that we're most similar to.
Terry, if you're out there, be on the show. Come watch a movie with us.
Anybody. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to do get other people in. We'd love to have Eric or Terry or anyone else. I mean,
we got to get Mike on here.
Yeah. For
that is Jay's dog Noble. If you can hear that in the background, he is freaking out. I'm guessing that Jay's family may be home.
No, the actress who plays Tori Toombs in Christmas Bloody Christmas, she saw my Christmas Bloody Christmas tattoo and thought it was cool. If she wants to come on and watch a movie with us, she's welcome to.
Definitely. Oh, and just before we close out, I just wanted to make this offer. I could move in with you if you want and stay here, but I may have to invite a few other people over.
Well, Jeff, as long as you're only going to be here a few days, I don't want you to stay through Christmas or anything.
I just need to get back on my feet for a few days.
All right, well, we'll talk about it off the air.
And you know this damn cell phone never works.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.